Hello, I'm Scott Hackworth with Industry Insights, and it's great to be back with you for this quarter's Industry Weather Report for the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. Our headlines this quarter are that service remained strong, retail gained some momentum, and builders had a relatively modest quarter. Let's take a look. So, looking at how the sectors finished out 2025 versus where they were at the end of 2024, we see that builders and remodelers were 19% more positive in revenue than negative, but that was down 7 points versus where they were in Q3. Service providers, 46% net positive, but also down 13 points versus Q3. And retailers were at 29% net positive, and that was an increase of 11 points versus Q3. And looking at how the sectors feel about 2026, there's a lot of optimism. Overall, builders and remodelers, 79% net positive, and that is up 27 points from where they were at the end of Q3. Service providers, 84% net positive, and that is plus 13 percentage points. And retailers, 64% net positive and up 21 points versus where they were feeling in the at the end of Q3. So a lot of new and extended optimism about the year ahead. Looking at backlog, the builders and remodelers told us that they have 27 days of backlog in new pools, and that's down 1 day from where they were in Q3. And they have 22 days in backlog of remodels, and that is up 1 day. So not a lot of change in terms of backlog. Looking at demand by category, new pools, 25% net positive, and remodels very similarly at 27% net positive. Both, though, saw increases versus Q3. Portable hot tubs and swim spas were just 3% net positive, so overall very flat. And though that is an increase, an improvement from where they were in Q3. And service and maintenance remains very positive, 42% net positive, but actually lost a little bit of momentum from where they were at the end of Q3. Turning our attention to the top business challenges that businesses overall told us that they're facing, the economy and how that affects consumers, that remains the number one biggest concern, and that has been for several quarters in a row now. However, the percentage of that was cited actually dropped a little bit. Profitability pressures, labor availability, so finding and retaining strong employees, and just increasing competition. All of those are the next three in terms of challenges, and they remained relatively consistent. And then seasonal demand volatility and some of the fluctuations and difficulties that causes rounded out our top five, and that did increase versus where it had been in Q3 and in prior quarters. So, taking just a moment to look at the economy and what's going on here recently that affects the industry, we see that consumer sentiment overall, just a very small percentage, in fact, a diminishing percentage, told us that they feel good about making a large purchase at this time, according to the University of Michigan's data. And when we look at the the terciles, so the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third, based on income, we see that all three groups actually are telling us, hey, it's not a great time right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of things going on that maybe make it a time to wait versus making that large purchase now. So there is some concern there about that. However, on a very bright note, the 30-year mortgage rate did drop below 6% for the first time in several years. So it got down to that 5.98. And we do know that there are some psychological triggers there that we do expect that could ease the housing market. We've seen some refinancing happening. And so there has been some activity reported in terms of housing and interest. And so we are expecting there to be some real positives from that. And regarding unemployment, it did rise a little bit to 4.4%. And we did see a negative jobs report last week. And so we're going to have to keep an eye there in terms of revisions and how that impacts things with the net job losses. So we'll continue to look at that. In regards to the conflict in Iran, we certainly are watching that closely. We do know that the impact on oil and on oil prices and how that trickles down through the economy is going to have some major effect on costs and also on inflation. And as that inflation is impacted, it's going to tie the hands of the Fed in terms of rate reductions. We had been anticipating some rate reductions in the first half of this year, or at least one rate reduction this year in the first half. And we're now internally here at Industry Insights, we've taken that off of our predictions. And so we no longer expect that. We do think at the earliest it would be June, but likely later before we see any reductions, just because of the increasing inflation that is very likely to be showing up in the economic data from here. So again, we'll continue to monitor and watch, but that is our current take. And so we do like to look at least once a year at respondents' answers to how well positioned they are to adapt to adverse conditions. So whether that be financial or otherwise. And it is reassuring to see that 80% told us that they feel well positioned to weather adverse conditions. 16% were neutral toward that, and 4% felt that they are poorly positioned. And with that, I want to thank you for watching this quarter's weather report. And I want to encourage you to stay engaged with PHTA's research. They provide a lot of great resources, a lot of great information for you. And so the Industry Pulse Survey, which I'm reporting on now, but we also have the annual benchmarking survey, which is taking place now and provides a really good assessment of the year and looks at a lot of different components within the year. And so provides a lot of great data for you. So please get involved. It's phta.org, and a lot of information is there for you. And with that, I just want to thank you very much and wish you a great rest of your quarter. Thank you.